All right, we're recording for those that are joining late, so we'll get a start. So everybody, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules. The AI movement seems to get a lot of attention. It's sort of something that we're globally interested in, and organizations are fascinated to understand the opportunity, but not just the opportunity, be aware of the risks as you go through it. So today we hope to talk through quite a bit of new and emerging capabilities with Copilot and the work that Microsoft have done to build an enterprise grade solution. But also, talk through that discussion with a respect and awareness to the risk and the governance required to do it maturely. So we'll get going. So with me today, I've got Philip from Tech Data. So I'm just getting my slides working so I can go to the next one. Tech Data are a partner of ours that helps us with all things Microsoft. Philip, I'll let you introduce yourself just quickly.
Thank you, Stephen. I love what I'm doing. I love Microsoft approach to technology democratization, and I love end user AI.
And he knows what he's talking about as well. So Philip
From
will
time to time, yes.
some of the time, he'll run us through some demos as we go today, which it's all the stuff that's new and emerging, but also covering off a bit of that other stuff as I mentioned. I'm Steve Yannitzeli. Most of you know me, the Chief Client Officer for IT Integrity. So just looking at today's agenda, quick welcome. I think a key thing for today's session, please use the chat, raise your hand if you've got questions. We find that the most value through this topic, and because it's such a large topic, the most value is often in the conversations we can have that are relevant to our organizations and relevant to where we are on our journey, as we'll all be on different stages of that journey. So please use that. We don't get a working lunch today because that was for one we did last week. So I apologize. I hope that some of you have a bite to eat. You're off camera, go for it. So I will be talking through some of the changes and some of the opportunities coming out in the new wave of AI and Copilot. And then, as I said, sort of Phil will be jumping into demos and talking through it. So, Microsoft have recently completed an AI tour, a global AI tour, talking about Copilot and what it means for organizations, what it means for partners to help organizations adopt it better. And they're really phrasing sort of the second wave of AI. What we've seen of AI to date essentially is AI for productivity. A lot of us are using it as a efficiency partner, if you will, summarizing meeting notes or helping interpret some documentation. And it's really been an input and output, a request or a tool that we're using to enhance our productivity. What Microsoft are seeing is that there is a wave 2 coming, and what they've prepared for and what they're built their product suite to unlock, and that's AI for substance. So that's elevating AI from a productivity tool for efficiency, but into an intelligence partner capability within our organizations to help critically think and interpret and accelerate our agility as an organization. So there's a few parts to that Microsoft framed through, and it is intelligence and trust. So, on one hand, you've got intelligence, and I'll dive into some of the tools or modules or capabilities that they've released that are available now in this intelligence and in this trust side, and Phil will showcase them as we go through. So, in the intelligence side and elevating from a productivity tool into that intelligence partner, Microsoft have done a great deal of work. Microsoft have done a great deal of work in this space. So there's a few key tools coming out. So Copilot Studio is a tool coming that's available now that you can use. Copilot Studio and Prompt Manager and a few of those tools really help you work better with agents. Taking, at the moment, as I sort of said before, Copilot, you put an input in, it comes out, and you interpret that output. With Copilot Studio, Co-work, and a few of the other modules, you're now getting coached on how to interact with the AI to improve your result. It's also giving you visibility into the accuracy of that result. That is, if you're using an agent that is not as refined or is not as purposeful for the kind of task you're doing, it will give you a percentage score of accuracy. Not only that, it also allows you or provides a transcript of the decisions it's making as it's going through and doing its work alongside you. What that means is you can then start to apply your human intelligence alongside it to refine and to redirect. Along with those tools around transcripting and accuracy, many of us will be familiar with containerizing our data or getting our data in the right shape so that we can rely on the AI to reflect upon accurate and trustworthy data. The new wave of Copilot allows you to select worksheets or individual sets of data and containerize the discussion that you're having with that AI agent at any given time, so that you can focus it in on niche or more refined discussion. That is, I could say, look at all the emails that Phil and I have interacted on and give me a response based on those emails. Ignore emails that aren't relevant or from another person because they're not relevant to the topic just now. I just want to work with these ones. In a finance space, that might be annual reporting or a forecast that is, an ALB forecast that might be different. Into the trust side, and I've touched on it a little bit there as well. With the trust side, you've got accuracy scores, you've got much more capability as far as the agents you use, and I'm not going to I'm not going to steal your thunder too much there. I'll leave that to you. But yeah, you've got a lot more capability to select certain agents to help you get a better result. Beyond that, in the trust side, data platforms are a great example of this, where quite often people will end up in a production environment working on a set of reports. And as data platforms have evolved, we follow a much more sophisticated system development lifecycle. Like, we'll go through a development and a test phase, and then we'll move it into a production report. What the agentic experience is doing now is the same thing. Microsoft have released Agent 365, which allows you to build an agent. And I was doing it this morning with my team. I'm building an agent called Drafty. Drafty is going to look at all my emails that are coming from clients and draft responses for me, so that I am ready to go, referring to that client and how I've spoken to them in the past. Some of my clients I might call mate, and some of them will be dear sir or dear madam. But those nuances that you can accelerate how you do it. Then Drafty is going to pass that information on to another agent who is going to call me at a prescribed time of the day and run through all those drafts and get my feedback before sending them to my clients. So those kinds of capabilities. What Agent 365 is doing is allowing us to build and test those agents in a controlled environment under enterprise protection, and then request that they get published. So, go through an approval stage, and that approval stage is both checking that the data sets I'm using and that the governance I've applied is correct, checking that how I've built the agent is not going to overconsume or underconsume. I haven't made bad assumptions in how that agent is built. And then also from a technical perspective, final technical authority. So with the set of tools coming out, you can building on both sides. Microsoft are talking about elevating AI's position in your organization and almost framing it like an AI org chart, that you're subordinates should have a team of AI agents or intelligence partners working alongside them to help them in their roles. And you as an organization should have an overall AI landscape or org chart that will help your organization better itself and achieve its objectives. So some really exciting stuff coming out in that space. Trust is a big thing. I said earlier on around respecting the foundations and respecting the sort of the governance and the risk. It's an alarming stat. For many, many years, we've been dealing with shadow IT networks, a router or a switch that's plugged into a CCTV camera that's also plugged into our network. And these things have been on the technologist, in our vocabulary for a long time, the notion of shadow IT. With AI, that risk still exists, and in fact, it's actually amplified. So, some pretty confronting stats around. I'm trying not to be an alarmist and say alarming, but yeah, confronting stats around the amount of people BYO AIing into the organization. Is up around that 80% mark. And they're doing it for all the right reasons. The intention is to bring efficiencies to what they're doing. They're trying to increase their workload. They're trying to get better at working. But the data and associated risk with bringing your own AI to work and where that information goes and the controls around the IP are very, it's fraught with danger from an organizational perspective. So, but a large part of your AI adoption journey is getting back to the basics. Scott was recently, our CEO was recently at a care service conference speaking about AI. And, we've been sort of as an organization, as ICT stewards and custodians for many of our clients for many years, we've been saying, build solid foundations, good infrastructure, good security permissions and controls into your data. Make sure your data is, in an environment that is centralized and matured so that your organization can access trustworthy gold standard data, if you will. It's the medallion architecture. Now, we've been sort of encouraging our clients down that pathway for many years. And it's now less about encouraging them down that pathway with the release of AI. And now our clients are asking us, how quickly can you get us there? Because I think the awareness around those protections is paramount and heightened. Some of the things I've just sort of talked through there as well, that risk ownership, the jurisdiction of your data, the sovereignty and the access to said data is all key. One of the other topics that we are talking through and that Microsoft are really building upon, and Phil's going to show this brilliantly with the with parts of the Microsoft Fabric ecosystem. There is AI tools embedded in a lot of the applications that we will have in our organizations already. For example, we use HubSpot. HubSpot has Breeze, has a whole host of use cases and capabilities within the application that I can use that agent for. We have Autotask, a Data or Kaseya product. It has AI capability in it and offering recommendations and helping us with triages and so on and so forth. What essentially that is building is AI in parity, if you will, or adoption in parity. If I'm using AI within the tools or in the applications that I am currently invested in or have investments in, I'm staying in parity with other people that have those investments in those products. Where you start to unlock AI as a strategic differentiation is where you can provide AI with an estate view of data relevant to your organization, relevant to your uniqueness, the way you do things as a business. And that's where, when unlocking AI capabilities on it, you are amplifying that uniqueness and amplifying the speed of that uniqueness. So yeah, big concept that Phil will sort of show us through a little bit in a moment. I am going to, Phil, hand over to you. Delves into some of your um, uh, new world here in this Agent 365 ecosystem. I think Phil will showcase it, but Microsoft have done work in the background to license a lot of the other agents that we would, ChatGPT, for example, or Anthropic and Claude. Now no longer have to license them individually. They're available through Copilot. And essentially, what that means is that the agentic experience and the capability in the Copilot Microsoft ecosystem is, magnified tremendously. I think there's 1,100 different agents there. But the key to it, from an organizational perspective, it is done with the same enterprise security guarantee that Microsoft offer on all their products. And so that gives us as technologists or decision makers within our respective organizations the trust to move into a new world and a new way of working with the security that our data is protected. So yeah, I'll let Phil talk through some of those things.
Thank you, Stephen. And look, very, very nice kind of theoretical preface. But I think if I'll switch to my theoretical slides right now, we will break the dynamic a bit. So if you don't mind, I'll start sharing screen and I'll do a couple of little demos, and then we'll probably go back to a little bit of theory, because I think we still need a bit of a supporting structure to help people understand and navigate the landscape better. Please let me know if you can see my screen, and while I'm sharing, I will also ask participants, if you don't mind, please type in the chat window just a quick yes if you're already using a licensed paid version of Copilot M365, because realistically, the key focus of our session today, Steve, I hope you agree with me, is on that end user AI. And I like this end user AI terminology. We've dealt with end user compute for many, many, many years. Now we're working with end user AI. Well, that's one of the key categories for the organizations to address. And the focus today is realistically on it, but it cannot be fully detached from the enterprise side of it. As you mentioned, security, governance, integration, overall manageability. It's not a standalone product. It's not end user compute. I have a laptop and call it a day. It's a much more synergic experience, much more integrated system overall. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's brilliant. We have a lot of people who are already active Copilot users. So I'm not gonna do basics. You know how great it is with meetings facilitation, summarization, how you can compose things on the fly. You've probably experienced agentic functionality, editing functionality in Excel, PowerPoint, etc. So we will not touch that as much as we normally do, because there are quite a few people. However, if you're interested to see any of that as a demo, again, just type in the chat or unmute yourself and let me know. Steve, I wanted to circle back to what you mentioned earlier, and just to point out to maybe someone who doesn't have a paid version just yet, this enterprise data protection little green shield, that's a big factor in the overall Microsoft story that I believe we have to pay attention to. It's the same enterprise data protection commitment that Microsoft provides us with as applies to the other products in M365 portfolio. Same as my email, same as my OneDrive, same as my SharePoint data, etc. So whole Microsoft footprint falls under the same umbrella, Copilot included. So when we have any concerns or reservations on adoption of this end user AI, we need to take that into account and also couple it with the fact that Australian IREP assessment pretty much green-lighted Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, more than 2 years ago now, for usage with data up to protected level classification. So it's not for secret, not for top secret, but anything below it. It was rated for it by independent Australian Signals Directorate and independent assessors. So I think that's very important to bring up. Another thing in the demo environment, let's call it that. Steven, what you mentioned earlier, we have realistically 3 mega AI model producers on the market right now. It's OpenAI with ChatGPT versions, it's Anthropic with Claude versions, and it would be Google with Gemini. That's the kind of Western world superpower. And then we have a cohort of Chinese so-called open weights model. I have to stress they're not open source, they're open weights. It's a big difference, right? So realistically, for enterprise usage in our Western world context, we are relying on those behemoths. Yes, there are open source models as well, but power capability-wise comparison, it's not quite comparable with the best of the breed on the market. And what I'm showing here is that with Copilot and M365 licensed paid version, you have access to various models. It's not just GPT models from OpenAI that Microsoft has agreement with long term. Until 2032, they have access to their oldest models. And now the cadence of new model proliferation into Microsoft ecosystem is under 1 week. I've seen a few weeks delay on initial stages, like a year and a half ago. Now with, let's say, 5.5 being released, I've seen it appear in Copilot in less than 1 week. And same goes to Claude. And I wanted to show one of the interesting capabilities that are, in my opinion, unique to Copilot. Maybe there are third-party harnesses on the market that have these capabilities. If I use the researcher functionality, and I actually use this comparative analysis today, let me show you my request and outcomes. I was interested in model counsel. And Steve, you know me, I love my taxation and investment.
Phil. That's your
yes,
game.
my mortgages. Okay, and I lost it. I'm sorry. History. And I'm going to pick this task. Okay. Well, live demos, as always, there would be something that is interesting. Let me try it from chat history here. There we go. Not collaborating with me right now. I wonder why. We will move on from this. I'll get back to it.
Live demos never fail, Phil.
Yeah. That's something that I think is important to highlight, that we're doing it live, and good, bad, and ugly. Everything shows up. But what I wanted to stress is we have this somewhat unique capability because of that multi-model use. We can have model counsel approach to reasoning over certain problems that you require your AI assistant to help you with, right? So we have an option of critique where it would be OpenAI GPT model response with Claude refinement, or we can have a model counsel where you will have a report produced by both models that you can compare, or you can get another run of prompting to create the detailed comparison to highlight the differences, etc. My results was actually quite interesting in terms of those taxation changes impact. I'm hoping I'm going to get back to it and show you in a tick. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to one of the things, Steven, you highlighted earlier, the integration capabilities and where does it lead us, right? And how difficult or easy and what kind of level of functionality and implementation we will land with that more enterprise grade solutions, etc. And I'm showing this very, very simple levels framework that we came up with to give us an idea of where a specific AI tool lands in terms of ease of adoption, ease of implementation, complexity to manage, and overall organizational business impact. And sometimes even simple entry-level chat interface can be extremely useful. You can have a very, very quick on-the-go responses, questions, etc. But quite often the biggest impact comes with more complex enterprise level solutions and fairly detailed agentic workflows that some organizations are developing and steam ahead on. And my example, I'm starting with this level 3 example. My example today would be with some capabilities that are available with Microsoft Fabric. Okay, Microsoft Fabric is a data unification and analytics platform. We can have a separate session on Fabric, especially if you're interested. I'm pretty sure Steve would be more than happy to arrange even one-on-one.
Yep.
But I wanted to highlight this AI and end user AI capabilities exposed to us with it. So let me run a quick demo. This is pre-recorded. I'm not doing this live, but I'll talk you through what we see. So we're in a Fabric interface, and in this context, we have a traditional SQL Server mirroring into a Fabric. So if you have a well, a relatively common line of business application with SQL Server being a underlying database, it is possible to create a replica, a mirror of that SQL database into Microsoft Fabric and enable AI capabilities on top of it. And this can be done across variety of technologies, from Oracle to real-time data, unstructured data like documents, PDFs, even images in some cases. It can be real-time streaming, weather events. The world is your oyster when it comes to Fabric, what it can absorb and allow you to produce AI-fied workflows, AI-fied analytics on top of that various data. In my example, I'm pretty simple. I have a SQL Server mirror in Fabric, and I do it on purpose because for a lot of organizations, they're looking for AIification of a legacy data. In my case, I already have a couple of agents created earlier, and I'm going to be creating an additional one based on a specific data source, being sales related tables in a SQL database. Pretty typical standard approach. What I wanted to demonstrate here, you don't need high grade data analysts, data scientists anymore to produce amazing results. Yes, you need good quality specialists to establish the initial setup, connectivity, governance, securitization, of course. But going forward, there is a lot of power user, citizen, developer level of capabilities that is available with this AIification and democratization of data and analytics. How does this connect with our conversation today? So here, as you can see, I'm just selecting sales related tables, and you can provide the agent that would be exposed to the end users. Amazing how cool it is to have people in specific roles being able to talk to the data source in a natural language. You don't have to create complex SQL or DX queries to get some data-based insights. You can be very granular with what you select and who you expose to. Even with these agent instructions, you can provide the agents with your organization specificities. It can be your acronyms. Steve, your example of referring to someone as mate and to someone as dear sir, it can be done with this agent as well, right? If I have a very specific acronym that is not industry standard, that is not common knowledge, I can tell it what it means. So when people ask it that way, it will know what it is about. So
context to your organization, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Very, very specific, very, very tailored to you. And here I'm just checking that it has access to the data. The connectivity actually worked. So that's not how you're going to consume the experience. But I'm showing the whole flow again to stress that this end user AI actually useful on various levels, even on a kind of more complex level 3 enterprise grade with additional harnesses and additional platforms behind the scenes. And I'm highlighting here that we're not going to try to do data analysis with large language model. That's not a good idea. It will, pick some samples and hallucinate results. What large language model does for us in this case, it interprets natural language by the end user, by the consumer of that end user AI, into behind the scene proper hard math SQL queries or whatever the language would be required to query that database or data source of various kinds. So as you can see, there is a proper SQL queries behind my request. It's not just LLM tries to get as much data into context window, does some analysis and spits out the results. That may be a bit of wishful thinking sometimes, right? The results would be precise. The results would be based on the queries on actual language to execute that math analysis behind the scene, deterministic system analysis, I should say. And now how easy it is to publish this agent to the people that would be ideal consumers, to the roles that would be ideal consumers. Steve, you mentioned Agents 365 before. Amazing capability for governing organizational footprint with agentic experiences. Because as you grow, you may have dozens and hundreds, and the control, and it can be third parties, like you showed that huge ecosystem from HubSpot to ServiceNow, and it's pretty amazing, right? My creativity with the way I describe it is not a very high level, but look how easy it is to surface this agent and consume it. So now I'm just showing traditional Copilot interface as an end user, and because this agent was made available to me, I have it in the list of my agents, right? And as an end user, even if I don't know what this agent is capable of, I can talk to it and it will explain what visibility it has, what data types it can assist me with, right? And in this question, it's pretty much revenue, performance, pipeline, and forecasting. So it will take highlights of the data source and produce this initial kind of user interaction based on it. Okay, now I know what's in that data. I can actually prompt something specific. So I'm asking, let's start with sales distribution to the territories we operate in, because I saw there was a notion of geographies, etc. And you can see it's utilizing the tool. Again, it's not LLM trying to analyze some samples of data in a context window, right? It actually goes back to the deterministic system behind the scenes, in this case being Microsoft Fabric, and produces the results based on those queries, data, hard data results that it can see from deterministic tooling. Okay, so our non-deterministic system that allows us to interact in a natural language with deterministic systems. I believe this is a superpower. Absolutely. And Microsoft's strength is this tight integration. Easy for us to govern, easy for us to secure. As you can imagine, all the purview policies, they reflect in Fabric. You can bring various data sources. Excel tables can be, a data source for Fabric as well. It's pretty robust and flexible and ridiculously scalable. But I just wanted to showcase it's a citizen developer. It's a power user level where I can pick a slice of my data source and expose it to a specific role, to specific user cohort. This can be heavily guarded, as you can imagine, that they can interact with it in a natural language whenever they please. You can also, if you did a bit of exploration around agentic workflows, you can embed an agent like this in a much more complex workflow where one agent would be handing over tasks to the other one, getting responses, interpreting, getting end user feedback, and executing in some third-party system. We already see people doing it. It's Microsoft refers to it as frontier. It is frontier as of today, but it will become normality 6, 12, 18 months later for a lot of organizations out there. I will stop for a sec, look for questions, and we will decide what to go with next. Is that okay?
That's great. I think definitely the the elements and the superpower that you refer to, Phil, is built on those foundations, right? Good security practice, who can get access to what, and the foundation or the Fabric data set, evolves it from a theory or just grabbing information and a hallucination into a scientific output, which your organization can trust.
Absolutely, Steve, 100% agree with you. So reliance on LLM being an interface for us to interact with deterministic tooling, right? Or with other agentic experiences that are more prescribed, let's put it that way, right? So our simple example, when we build an agent, and we can demonstrate it as well, we can provide a very specific source of truth for it. Steve, you saw my example with ATO questions where I would provide just the ATO website. Please do not look elsewhere for any basic taxation advice, right? what it allows us to do is still interact in natural language, but make sure that the agent we've created, the rules around the LLM responses would be confined to a specific data source, right? We see a lot of organizations utilizing this basic agentic functionality, navigating internal, external policies, industry standards, etc., just getting that on-the-fly feedback for their user base, and super easy to implement. I will probably show very quickly later on how this can be done. I'm looking at the questions, and I think there was a comment from Sumit. I only have auto, quick response, and think deeper as options on my Copilot app. Sumit, I think you're on Copilot Basic, so I don't think that's the paid version for you just yet. Probably that's why you have those options. Okay, so the paid versions, you will see what I see. And the key of determining paid version versus free version, let me just quickly show you here. You would have this work IQ or work switch. So as you can see, I can turn off work IQ. Now responses would be based primarily from external sources if I do not instruct my Copilot, if I do not define those sources. Or if I have this enabled, this would be based on my footprint, right? Everything that my account has access to. SharePoints, OneDrive, third-party systems where we have established connectors or have plugins configured, right? So that is the best check if you have a full version, okay? Yeah, so Steve, you responded to that already.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, so while we were on the subject of Fabric, I'll probably follow up with a demo associated with it. Again, just highlighting the fact how this AIification of our end user experience helps us to do more complex tasks. Everyone probably heard about vibe coding these days. I'm almost feeling that I'm vibe doing a lot of things, not just coding, but consulting, responding to questions, licensing, some architectural questions. I'm a tech head. I'm supposed to know things, but these days I'm vibe doing a lot, right? And this is another example of vibe doing, right? I'm not a Power BI specialist by a long stretch. Similar example in Fabric, if you have your Power BI engine running on top of Fabric, and a lot of organizations switching to this primarily because of advantages that AIification brings to the table, right? You can build the report dashboards. You can have various insights using natural language. I've built this dashboard using a couple of prompts, couple of iterations, right? And now I'm just showing an example, how do I modify it? Again, with natural language. So in this case, I want to add a visual to compare every territory sales last year versus sales year to date. I saw that there is a terminology of sales year to date, and I want to see sales last year. But as you can see, you can have a geographical mapping of various charts, etc. If you dealt with Power BI, you know more than I do about it. So for me, this was a revelation. So now, without investing much time into Power BI knowledge acquisition, experience acquisition, I can actually do stuff, useful for me, useful for my role, for what I want to see as a specific specialist in this area, using natural language, power user stuff, right? No need for data scientists to produce basic things. Let's keep data scientists for harder tasks, which they love much more than sort of drudgery of, oh, I just need this report with bar charts instead of bar charts. Yeah, you can do it yourself now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, consider if you have Power BI users, you may consider Fabric. Ask Steve; he would be more than happy to have that discussion. We can have one-on-ones. We can have more around it. I'll go further with my sort of excited approach to what's new. And Steve, thank you for your generous smile. And I will show you what I'm doing with CoWork. Steve, you mentioned you using agents to assist with drafting and tone setting, etc. So right. I think what's important for people to check, and Copilot users, licensed Copilot users, you have this. Maybe you haven't seen it, maybe you've missed it. If you haven't, good on you, but please check. Now we have significant opportunity to personalize how Copilot behaves for us. I'm sorry, I'm not going to show you my instructions and settings, but you can see that you can have custom detailed instructions. It can be your profile. It can be your role description. It can be your preferences in terms of how you would like it to respond, tone, etc. It can be pretty robust. And guess what? If you are struggling with having that structured description, just ask Copilot. This is what I'm doing. I'm on a personalization task for myself. Help me to structure my brain dump. And you just talk to it. You enable the voice recognition, transcription, and you just talk to it. It will compress your brain dump into a structured approach, and this is how you can provide those instructions, right? And work profile, you can enable chat history. This all helps with responses being more specific to you. Again, that end user AI becomes much more personal. Okay, so with this said, let me show you what I've done, Steve, with my email
Excellent.
automation. All right.
Excellent.
If I can have another run of yeses, who has started using Cowork? My licensed Copilot friends, Cowork. Yes, Lindsay. Anyone else?
Yep.
Steve. Okay. Okay.
Well,
You
it's a
haven't
dangerous
had it 2
place.
weeks ago. I remember 2 weeks ago you haven't
Yeah,
had
yeah,
one.
yeah. I've only just
Yeah.
got, and
Good.
I've
Good.
enjoyed it.
That's great. That's great. All right. So we have only Lindsay. All right. So this is a good show then. Okay. So I wanted to show what the capabilities are. Uh, every organization can enable it now. Microsoft labels it as a frontier capability. So there's a bit of admin settings to click through to enable it. It's falling under the same enterprise data protection umbrella. There is one little caveat I have to mention, and because some organizations may have stricter policies. When it comes to anthropic models, Microsoft classifies them as a subprocessor, right? What it means, all OpenAI models are hosted directly by Microsoft, okay? So even the metadata never leaves Microsoft control perimeter. Okay, your data, your actual files, your actual images, etc., never leaves your tenancy perimeter. But what what our harness, what our Copilot will send to the model would go outside, will travel outside of your tenancy as a metadata, as a context window extended prompt, right? It's obviously fully encrypted. It's only in memory processing. It is never saved. It's not used for any model training. That is completely out of the question, and there are very, very, very clear policies and documentation that Microsoft provides us with, and hence that enterprise data protection shield. However, when it comes to anthropic models, they still have a classification of subprocessor, which means the actual LLM may sit outside of fully Microsoft controlled environment as of today. I believe they would be hosting it within Microsoft controlled environment shortly, and that subprocessor classification may change. I'm stressing this because some organizations may have higher sensitivity, and it's something you should be aware of.
Yeah.
Jump into example. I just wanted to show what Cowork is capable of, right? If I'll go see all here, you already have a lot of kind of pre-created tasks capabilities that you can pick from. Okay. And it's almost unlimited scope in terms of giving it skills, giving it capabilities that are specific to you. So let me show you one of the sort of pre-created capabilities. And in my case, I've actually, prior to this meeting, I was looking for a licensing specialist, Microsoft licensing specialist within my organization, with the Australian footprint of my organization. Okay. And I've used pre-created prompt. I've just did modification in terms of who I'm looking for in my organization. And pretty much the rest of it, all this structure was pre-created for me. I'm not that smart, right? It's can be done for me, right? And in this case, upon completion, it pulled out 5 candidates for me with their roles, with the evidence why it thinks this person is the best specialist for this specific area, and also created draft messages that I can send in Teams for to engage with people, to explain, what I'm after in this area. So this internal expertise finding, especially for the larger organizations or for someone new, can be a godsend. And I just want to stress, your creativity is the limit today.
Mm.
I guess that's the point to deliver, right? With co-work in particular, it's your creativity, what you can think of, what wasn't possible before is now possible. It actually does things for you. Steve, and my example with morning email drafts, I'm sorry, I'm not going to show you my inbox in full, but I did screenshot this morning on purpose what I've done. So when I come to my work environment in the morning, I go straight into the draft folder, not to inbox. Because I've created a skill, and I will show you in a sec, that it will filter through all the messages that are typical newsletters where they're not addressed to me, etc., etc., etc. It will ignore them. But messages that will addressed to me where my response is required, it will create a draft for me automatically. So it does it every day, 7 a.m. I don't have to do anything.
Mm.
My email work in the morning starts with the drafts folder because I already have drafts. In this case, it was just 2 messages, and I'm sorry, I replied to a few more, but I left you with a couple that you can see. I'm coming into a draft that is created based on a conversation on the email thread related to this request. Okay. Licensing question, Copilot Studio, as you see, that's what we do every day. That's where we live. And this automation wasn't difficult to achieve, right? I've created a skill, again, using Copilot, explaining what I'm after. I want to come to my inbox every morning with drafts to meaningful messages already composed for me. So I can just review the drafts, make a few modifications, send. I'm done, right? And the rest of the messages, they are low priority. I can deal with them later. I can deal with them in some other manner. But you can work with meeting preps, you can work with email replies in a very, very different way these days. And co-work can act on your behalf with your permission, with the way you would describe the task. It's all possible here, right? So that's a bit of a flow that I've tried earlier to understand how it works and how it affects things. More questions, please. Because I'm going to switch gears and jump back into a bit of a theory.
Just while you're working there, Phil, and
Yes.
just for everybody in the room, I'm about to spend a week on a catamaran in the Whitsundays, just so you all know. But co-work drafted my whole delegation plan, who needs to be across what topics, prepped all the messages for the relevant people. Highlighted any meetings I needed to manage, all while we've been on this call.
Right. No, that's beautiful. I mean, the catamaran and Whitsundays co-work. Yeah, it's okay. It's just a must now. Like, realistically, it's just normal, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, catamaran and Whitsundays is not normal. I'm a bit envious. I'm sorry. Look, we've touched on this, right? And I just wanted to highlight where this end user AI, Microsoft strengths in particular, is this work IQ, right? It's that awareness of the data we have access to and not necessarily Microsoft footprint. It's all those connectors and plug into third-party systems. Steve, by the way, you mentioned HubSpot. Did you know there is an existing connector for HubSpot that you can easily engage?
Right. I love these calls. I learn something every time.
Yep,
This is
absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. HubSpot connector is there. I have not explored full capabilities of it. I do not live in HubSpot. I'm not a salesperson as such, but I know that our sales friends are started to rely on it pretty heavily, right? Because it helps with additional context, that meeting preparation, briefs, etc., etc. That's additional data source, right, for the inference and co-work included. So work IQ is a big strength. I just wanted to highlight it. And it's Microsoft specific. Yes, other providers, they allow some connectivity to Microsoft footprint. Even Anthropic themselves, Microsoft allowed them to have that connector fully aware of M365 context, so they can see your OneDrive, they can create, modify files in SharePoint, etc. But my question would be why? If value to functionality, ease of governance, single vendor delivery, I would just question when people saying, yeah, I will go with third party instead of Copilot.
Yeah.
Steve, I think you focused on this area quite heavily, all right? The trust and what Microsoft is doing. So I'm gonna skip through this. For those who have not adopted yet, it is important to do it with good foundation. Right, Stephen, I think you will cover a bit with what's possible, like what can be the sort of entry work prep work that you guys can assist customers with. Okay, great. Because these are important areas to cover. Strong foundation helps to adopt safely and adopt with full power. Because yes, we have a lot of kind of little breaks and tweaks that we can enable. For as an example, there can be a master switch that will not allow my Copilot to infer on any files that I haven't seen before. A bit of security by obscurity, right? If there was a overshared HR folder in SharePoint, which I'm not supposed to see, but by mistake my account was allowed to, you can enable a master switch that will not allow my Copilot to infer on that data if I have never seen those files, if I have never opened them. Obviously, all the policies, all the purview implementations that you may have invested or planning to invest, all the data classification is respected, right up to a level where if I publish an agent in Teams, it will tell me that, for example, some people on this team do not have access to some of the files I based my response on. Do you still want to publish this response in a group? Right, you are the decision maker. It will inform you. It will not do it by default. Okay. Only usage maturity. I think it's important, obviously, to justify the investment, to have that confidence that we are spending in the right area. Steve, and I think you mentioned this kind of achieving parity with your competitors and actually going ahead, right? And I'll be honest with you, when we're talking about maturity, yes, Microsoft friends have evolved the tooling that helps organizations to measure, to report, to control significantly over the last 2.5 years since Copilot was with us, and from the initial versions. But my personal opinion, right, and I'm a bit bold here, this end user AI is now just parity, right? It's a must. Even if you go with the free version, it's powerful enough for a lot of users. You may not have everyone in a knowledge worker role as such, so people in those non-heavy knowledge worker type roles will benefit even from the free version. It will fall under the same enterprise data protection umbrella. You can allow those people to consume the agents that others create, right? You can still have that agentic power available to them. But if it comes to additional governance, reporting, functionality, measurements, ROI calculation, there is a lot on the back end that is available to us. I've done, highlighting a few areas that we kind of classify those metrics into, in terms of usage, in terms of engagement levels, in terms of impact or effect on the work patterns, and some basic ROI calculation. ROI calculation, I will be honest with you, is a little bit tricky because you will have to provide your own organizational metrics, your hourly rates, etc. But it's an interesting exercise. So some businesses that have been through it reporting that it provides some interesting outcomes. And Steve, I'm not sure if you agree with me because I know you are much more mature. You are less excited than I am, and you have much more mature approach.
I don't know about that. That's a bold statement.
No, this technological area, I'm sometimes overly excited, so I apologize for that. That parity conversation, right? When we're talking about our ROI, I believe there should be a new way or new lens through which we should look at ROI, right? It's that kind of staying behind or being together with everyone else or being a little bit ahead. Okay. So it's trickier than ever in terms of pure ROI calculation, right?
Yeah, it's almost like a risk-based ROI, right? Because there's a risk of not being in the race anymore.
Absolutely. And talking about kind of metrics, I also highlighted a few metrics. So we have collaboration patterns, actions taken. We can introduce some, let's say, fortnightly, monthly surveys into the user base. That's all possible. That's all available in the backend. Okay. I'll stop here for a second, also look for questions, and maybe the audience wants for us to uncover some other areas while we have time.
This is our first virtual version of this, Phil, as you know. So, and for the others in the room, so we've got ourselves plenty of time for this. We weren't quite sure how long it would take to get through the demos. So, plenty of time for questions. There's a bit more to cover, but we'd really welcome anyone to scratch in and pick the brains of Phil and the team here while we're around.
Steve, I'm going to be bold again, and I'm going to pick on people. Lindsay, who have used CoWork, what are your findings? Do you mind sharing with us? If you're uncomfortable, that's okay. That's not no pressure. But if you're comfortable, do you mind sharing your findings with CoWork? If you have found something cool that actually works for you in your day-to-day. Feel free to unmute yourself if you like, whatever works. And to other participants, one good use has been creating training program for Copilot for use with RNs. Beautiful. Can't unmute. Okay.
A restriction on the things, Zara. I'm not sure if you can turn that off, but yep, go.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's beautiful. That's exactly what we want to see. And this is very interesting point, because right now with CoWork and with that sort of editing experience in a Microsoft suite of apps, in particular, I'm sorry, I'm wearing Microsoft hat. It's much easier to create interactive forms with some logic built into them, training materials like Lindsay mentioned. You probably know that you can create pretty much podcast-like, where there is a couple of people speaking on a topic, right? We had end customers who were using boring training materials converted into that podcast-like structures, and that was landing much better with the user base. As a I would listen to a podcast rather than sit through a set of boring slides type thing. Yep, slide deck, handout sheets, facilitator guide. Beautiful, right? That's what we want to see. Absolutely. Steve, so I'll click through a couple of more things. I just have this comparison between free version and Copilot M365. This is just to reiterate of power of it. And when you mentioned shadow AI, right? My true belief, when you provide people with sanctioned and powerful tooling, a lot of that shadow AI fades away.
Yeah, right? You're right.
I'm not going to go to, well, in my case, I don't know, Gemini for work matters, or DeepSeek for work matters, because I have amazing tooling at my disposal. Even if I have a free version, I'm not going to be tempted by other chat agents available out there. I'm not going to upload my earnings Excel spreadsheet to create a nice Prezzo from it, because my free Copilot, used to be called Copilot Chat, is capable of doing that for me, right, or assisting me with it. And for small organizations, Microsoft allowed context awareness of free Copilot even within the apps. So we had Sumit with free version. Sumit, if you are from a small organization. I don't remember the exact seat count. I think it was something like 1,200 seats or less. Your free Copilot should be available, should be visible within your apps as well. So even when you are in Excel, when you are in PowerPoint, when you are in Word, when you are in Outlook, Copilot should be visible there as well. Okay, it's not going to be contextually aware. It doesn't have that work AI, or sorry, work IQ with it. It will be aware only on the context what you have on your screen, what's on the page right now.
Perfect. I think, Lindsay, it's interesting the path that you've taken with your license, and it's almost like you read my brief here about the key points of this discussion, the notion of this end user AI and getting the tools in the hands of the people that actually can make a difference with it and make a difference for the organization by using it. And that has to be done with the people element considered. It is a lot of change, a lot of adoption, a lot of education to ensure that people understand. Even Phil, just now you're saying, that people are aware of the risks and aware of the constraints as well around how they should be using AI. The more we can do that human element of change, the more we're going to accelerate that end user capability. Obviously, yeah, in power in the hands of the people. The stat shows you that with that 80% that adoption is not the challenge, right? People want to use these capabilities. It's just about putting the structure in place from laying the platform privacy security and enhancing what the tools can do with the structured knowledge bases such as Fabric and centralized data assets.
100%, Steve, 100% agree. So there is this laying the foundations role, educational role, in my opinion, fades into a background a little bit, and I will explain why. If, let's say, even a year ago, you had to be pretty good with structuring your prompts, and we actually have a prompt guidance. I still have it in my Preza. It's relevant to a degree. Now you can ramble about stuff, right? And it will help you to structure your rambling, and then prompt itself. It's a way better. I'm just redeeming myself for that little failure at the beginning with that model council demo. So I went back into my history, and that's something it produced for me this morning.
Right.
I think again that's Microsoft's strengths. Apart from ease of governance, ease of securitization, ease of integration, is that multimodal approach. I think Satya is a great leader in terms of having that foresight and not sticking just to one provider. And by the way, if you're building complex solutions with AI Factory in Microsoft Azure, you have access to a vast portfolio of models. And some of those you can self-host as well. So that would be fully confined for your environment only, etc. But if you remember my model council example with the researcher agent, I have now feedback or report produced by both GPT and Claude related to those property tax reforms 2026, and I can switch between the two, and they pretty much agree on major numbers. Housing supply reduction, rent increases, owner-occupier benefits, that's great, and estimated house price impact. They pretty much agreed on all the key numbers, right? I'm not going to dive much deeper, but this is something that can help you to have a more critical eye into your research using AI, using LLMs, right? Again, model council option, and there was a critique option. So for licensed users, utilize this for your more in-depth research, for some high-impact tasks, etc. With CoWork, Steve, if I can, I don't know if it's something that you already discovered. What I love that you can give it tasks and walk away. Okay, so absolutely. So if I'll say, this research a company task, and let me just use a company I've done research in the past, and I'm not gonna modify anything. I can launch this research and I can go back to CoWork and it just shows this task as in progress. And I can keep tasking it with more things. You don't have to sit there and wait. It's not a single thread, right? You can make it very busy and then come back and just see status of all those tasks that you've submitted. You've discovered this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'll ask the question for the benefit of those in the room, but the compute that supports this level of tasks, Phil, now is that a subscribed compute or is it part of the license for co-work?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is where, key value is. Um, it's all part of regular Copilot subscription,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And for small organizations out there, Microsoft just made public that for Microsoft SMB cohort of businesses under 300 seats, that's how they classify SMB. There is a Copilot for business, which is functionally exactly the same as the Copilot M365, let's call it enterprise version. Functionality is the same. If you're bundling it with Microsoft Business Premium license, there's a license bundle, they provide significant discounts on it. And now they made those discounts permanent. There was like a promo campaign, now
yeah.
it's permanent.
Wow.
Again, I respect the technology democratization that they do for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Phil, mate, this has been really good. As I said, I've learned something new every time that we have one of these, and we're having them every 2 weeks, and that's how rapidly things are progressing, and capabilities are evolving. So definitely a pertinent time to get yourself and your team and your businesses up to speed. A couple of the key themes, which we've touched on there: privacy, security, data hubs, and fabric investments. So all things that our clients know that we can support them with. But for those that don't know, we can support you with it, and would welcome any conversation that comes out of it. One of the things, we've been partnered with Tech Data for a while now, and it's been a great relationship helping us evolve our capability in this space and also benefit our clients. What we're offering as part of the journey is a Copilot clinic. So Copilot clinic will take two streams through your business. It'll take a technical readiness stream and a business readiness stream. So in essence, Phil mentioned around some of those master controls and risk aversion by obscurity, using some of those controls to make sure that data doesn't end up in the wrong hands. But also, the Copilot Clinic technical stream will deploy a licensed product that will look for any gaps and holes in your data and sharing that shouldn't be there or might be outside of the identity controls or structures that you've already got in place. And then we'll take a business track or a business pathway through it, and we'll select a cross section of resources from your organization and take a train the trainer approach. Look at some of the use cases that are applicable to them, train them on how to use these tools, spend time training them, and then set up the reporting for adoption and uptake. So the Copilot Clinic, it's heavily funded or co-funded, if you will, by Microsoft and Tech Data. So helps us to do them at a fraction of cost. It does vary size of organization, so on and so forth. So I can't blurt out numbers, but for the value that it's deriving for our clients and for laying that foundation in a structured, mature way, so that they can step into this end user AI notion with confidence, is been really good. So I'd encourage anyone to reach out. We also we do have a registration QR code that was not working prior to this meeting, so Zara will send that out when it's available. If I could just get you to confirm your attendance to this, it helps us report back to Microsoft and ensure that the co-funding is made available to the clients, yourselves and others that are join these kinds of discussions.
Steve, if I can interject just for a sec, I wanted to highlight this technical track of that Copilot clinic.
Please.
I've seen time and time again how somewhat unexpected gaps were discovered on assessment stage. And those 50 hours of technical work, it's a pretty significant effort. You literally have a specialist assigned to the business for full-time equivalent of more than 1 week, almost 1 week and a half, if you think about it. So there is a good chance that majority of those findings would be covered within that clinic engagement, right? There won't be spillover technical debt as such.
Yeah.
And the reports we're hearing from end customers who have engaged this option is that unexpected things were fixed that we didn't know existed in our environment, that were not directly sort of end user AI related.
Yeah. Just get some peripheral benefits from the
Yeah.
findings. So it's a bit of a internal security or data practice audit, if you will.
Yeah.
So very, very beneficial. So yeah, look, we'd welcome any opportunity to talk you through that in a little bit more detail and make it relevant to your organization. I think, all through this conversation today, you would have heard the notion of governance, change, and structured approach. The tooling, the capability, what it can do for your organization. Even, Phil, that the stuff that you show us in BI and now, allowing specialists to be true specialists, but giving access to a whole new level of the cohort to those kinds of capabilities, and having them being able to intuitively work with tools like that, which were otherwise, reliant on a specialist or on an IT team, is just it's unbelievable. So encouraging people to get down that path, but do it with the structure it is due. So I think that's about it. Unless there was any other questions, we'll send out that link after the session. We have been doing for some of our clients like an AI agent day, but very much needed to get that Copilot clinic done first. So it's available if you need it. Any sort of final questions or thoughts across the board? Thank you all for your time. I know it's extremely valuable. Look forward to any ongoing conversation. Thanks, Phil. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure.